Yo, what is up, everyone? Back here with another video. Today we're going to be doing a top 16 Lunadon kind of team report thing. It's like more so kind of reviewing the team and then kind of going through Mattie's story, going through with the team. I had actually built this team a couple of like weeks ago. I think it was already on the Patreon or something. And then Maddie was like scrambling for a team for Victory Road, and I was like, here, like take this team, and like he ended up using it, doing super well with it. So I figured like we do a video on channel. Maddie, yeah, feel free to introduce yourself to the viewer real quick.
Yeah, I'm Mattie. If you don't know me, I'm a VGC player from Ireland. I've been playing for a few years, well, quite a lot of years now. But I was really stuck for a team this weekend, and Joe really helped me out. So I am only great. I'm really grateful to Joe.
No, I mean, dude, I'm glad you did well, man. It's cool also to have like other players on the channel. Usually like on the channel I kind of do like content that's not too much focused around like other players. So it's nice to have like guests on. Even just like talk about stuff
Yeah,
like teams and stuff. So it's cool to have you on. And I mean, I'm glad you did well with him, man. You're in. I think Manny too is not saying enough. Like he's a really good player. So he's definitely underrating himself a little bit. But yeah. So into the team. So pretty much with the Lunadon team, this is pretty much what you'd expect. So it's a pretty bulky team as a whole. You have a strong bulky core of like double dark types to kind of help with your Calyrex matchup, and you have obviously your two restricteds being Lunala and Groudon, kind of setting Trick Room to take advantage of that, or having a fast mode with Thundurus and Venusaur. So starting out with the Groudon is pretty much a standard Citrus Berry Sword Sand set. There's not really too much going on there that's like unique, I think. I mean, it's a pretty middling speed. I guess Maddie can tell you more about the speed tier. It's mostly just meant to outspeed Charizard, but like I think that was the one thing you had mentioned was like kind of something you would maybe consider changing around a little bit.
yeah. So like this Groudon, it's pretty slow. I think like I undersped every Kyogre I played. I speed tied one Groudon, and I was slow. I was faster than one Groudon. Everything else was faster than me. But like in one of my games, if I was slower than the other Groudon, I might have been able to win, and I lost. So if anything, I would consider going slower. You actually really want to be slower than the opposing Kyogre, just because you can lead it into Kyogre without risking their Weather going up, because the slower Pokemon gets the Weather up. So you can like safely lead into Kyogre and be safe because the sun will go up.
Yeah, and like I think that's like the thing that Groudon's nice for, right? Like the benefit it has over Kyogre is like setting that sun, which kind of ruins the opposing Kyogre's damage. Whereas like when Kyogre swaps in this weather, like it's still not reducing Groudon's damage. It's just getting itself in an ideal situation to deal more damage, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and like Ludodon kind of helps, or like Lunala going into the actual Lunala kind of helps you get into those positions. Like this Lunala specifically was running Moongeist, Meteor Beam, Trick Room, Protect, pretty standard set specifically for the EVs for you guys, like wondering what the EVs on the Lunala do. It was meant to take a Life Orb, Astral Barrage from Calyrex Shadow. So basically, you could sit in front of it, you could return a Moongeist onto it and get the KO. It also kind of helped into like certain leads, so that basically you could always force a trade between your restricteds turn one. I'm not sure if that came into play too much for you because like I had looked at your run as well, and like you didn't play too many Calyrex Shadow, I don't think, right?
Yeah, I played two. I don't think I ever like had to take an Astral Barrage with Lunala.
Yeah.
So it was nice to have the security though, and just the Spadef in general definitely did come into play.
Yeah, I think Lunala in general is just a really consistent like option, right? Like the main thing it offers is like bulky Shadow Shield, middling speed tier, so it can work in both Trick Room and out of it, and like you get the Meteor Beam boost to like even hit stuff like Incineroar, which otherwise would wall you, right?
Yeah, honestly, it was so well rounded. Like it just has good stats around the board. It's not like super strong, but it's bulky. Like compared to even other restricted, especially with Shadow Shield, you can take like a Water Spout or like one really strong move if need be. So
Hmm.
this Trick Room's really solid. What I think at the minute is like there's a ton of teams that are not very prepared for Trick Room, such as like a lot of Torn Ogre builds. They only really have a Moongus. Some of them don't even have that much. But I think the problem in the format right now is there's not a lot of good trick room setters that actually exert pressure. And Lunala was able to do both at the cost of a restricted slot, so it was so good.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that that's something unique Lunala offers. I think this is a format because there are two restricteds. Like Lunala offers a bit more, whereas like in a single restricted with Dynamax, I think it's a bit like more trouble because usually in like the single restricted Dynamax formats, you'd want your restricted to be able to Dynamax as well, or be something like Zacian, which can output a lot of damage, right? And now you kind of I feel like are afforded the opportunity to run like a couple more like supportive or like less like immediate damage output restrictors, I
Yeah,
feel like. Um,
absolutely.
but like yeah, and like I think the team still made sure to compensate even for the fact that Lunala wasn't like immediately dealing damage sometimes, like with like Thunders, which is actually the next slot. Like this pretty standard Life Orb Thunders. There's not like too much going on here. The main reason for the Thunders being on this team was specifically because it helped dealing with opposing Yveltal. I mean, you do have something to pin opposing Kyogre in certain matchups. And then also, I feel like you get the Lunala Thunders lead where you get to go for like Airstream and like Meteor Beam sometimes, right? Kind of just gives you a more aggressive option on the team on an otherwise like slightly more defensive team, I feel like. So
Yeah, I would say like Thundurus was my least used Pokemon, but I don't think I played against a single Yveltal all
yeah, yeah,
tournament.
I'm actually looking over right now. I don't think you didn't play a single Yveltal,
Yeah,
so that probably helped.
honestly, this team might look like it loses to Yveltal pretty badly, but I don't think the matchup is that bad at all. Between Insane and Umbreon, you can really slow it down. Most Yveltals can't Oko Lunala without Dynamaxing, so like, yeah, I wouldn't say it's that much of a problem, but Thundurus would have definitely came there. It's good against Torn Ogre teams as well.
hmm
So especially in open team sheet, if you know they don't have protect on tornadoes,
You can
you can
double
honestly
target
just
it or
air
like
steam
take it
fake
out.
out. Yeah, it's so strong.
No, yeah. And Venusaur, I mean this one probably doesn't take too much time to go over because it's literally just a standard Sash Venusaur for the most part.
Venusaur's so
Like
good.
it's just
Yeah.
good. I mean, it obviously fast sleep powder with Groudon. It gives you faster mode. You get Vine Lash down. It's residual chip. Like there's really not too much extra to it. This specific Venusaur is running like Leaf Storm, Weather Ball, Earth Power, Sleep. Okay, wait. Yeah. Leaf Storm, Weather Ball, Earth Power, Sleep Powder. Wow, I like
Yeah.
cannot speak. But yeah, literally like it's just pretty standard moveset. You get Max Flare to pin like Zacians or other like Steel types. You know, nothing too, I don't think complicated there. I think one thing
No.
interesting on this team actually, now that we're talking about Steel types, is that this team actually has no Steel types, and you notice that like I feel like a lot of teams that did well over like the course of like the tournament for this specific tournament had a steel type and they had an electric type. Electric type less common, but like I feel like majority always had a steel type and like there was usually an electric type as a filler as well on
Yeah.
on the teams. So that's like a kind of interesting thing to note as well. Incineroar as well. That one isn't really that complicated either. Safety goggles Incin. You can't get slept by opposing Venusaurs. Helps you with the Moongus. I mean, you're pretty much able to sit there. We were running Throat Chop on it too. The Incineroar with Throat Chop just kind of stops things in Trick Room from swapping out and potentially getting your ground in good position. I mean, do you have any like? Were you using Throat Chop a lot? Like, did you find it to be something useful or like?
Um. Yeah, it was pretty good. In my top 32 set, it put a lot of pressure onto Paddles and Didi. I was
Mhm.
able to kind of sweep with it in Trick Room. Otherwise, Lunala has a very bad matchup into Ndidi because after it burns its Meteor Beam, it can't hit it. So, like, the combination of those two Pokemon really lined up. Fruit Chop was okay. Like,
Mhm.
you could get rid of it, but I don't see, like, the need to get rid
Better
of it. I don't,
replacement, right?
yeah, I don't see a better replacement.
See, the theory with Throat Chop for me is like, or like the logic with it is like, I feel like Darkest Lariat, you get 5 extra base power, but like that's not really helping you with any KOs. And
Yeah,
then
I totally
Throat Chop has
agree.
like the extra utility of like stopping Snarl and Parting Shot with which everything on your team doesn't really like for the most part, right?
Yeah,
So I feel like it's just more relevant as a whole, right? And like finally getting into the I think the coolest Pokemon on the team, Umbreon. I thought Umbreon was like the neatest thing about this team, but like you know because it's just from
yeah.
like a visual standpoint, I feel like it very much like fits in, you know.
Umbreon is just sick. It's so underrated right now, I think. On paper, I think Umbreon actually looks like very lackluster, but in practice, it's a beast.
Yeah, I think
The have
it has endgame potential too. That's what's nice about it.
Yes, yes. Yawn is insane. People are definitely not using Yawn that much right now. Only on Gastrodon, I think.
hmm
But you always have offensive pressure as long as Yawn's there. Snarl just slows things down. Moonlight with Sun is insane, especially when you can
75%.
stack. Yeah, you stack Max Quakes with Venusaur or Groudon, and then some matchups you just can't be killed. Yeah,
No,
it
for
can
sure.
honestly.
Like it's
It's
crazy.
sort of versatile, like how you can play it. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like a crazy mod as a whole, you know. Like it I feel like the nicest thing about it is that it's able to really put on that extra layer of like you need to deal with this or like you're gonna lose the game. You know what I mean? Because there's
Exactly,
some
yeah.
Pokemon that, like, for example, Ferrothorn, like Iron Defense Ferrothorn, like you have to play a certain way around a team like that to deal with it and not lose. You know what I mean? Like you have to be
Mhm.
like, okay, how am I gonna beat Ferrothorn in late game? And I need to preserve my options to beat it late game. But that also can make you play suboptimally versus what's currently on the field. You know?
Exactly. It can honestly force like team preview games. Like if they just have a say they have a very balanced or defensive team, they are like they have to bring like their strongest Pokemon that can break Umbreon. And you can like use that to your advantage. I mean Thundurus has this effect as well. It discourages like instant leads, which is great for Lunala, great for Venusaur and Groudon.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I would say like when you play this team, like keep in mind what they are like seeing, what they would think about leading, because it's very unlikely that in a game one a very good player is just going to lead their insane like immediately and risk getting swept by Thunderous. And
Yeah.
they will bring him on to break Umbreon as well.
Yeah, you can definitely like take advantage of that in team preview, I think, which is nice,
Hmm.
right? Like, and that's something that's really strong, I think, about this team is like, even I feel like in a closed team sheet scenario, right? Like, it's still a little tricky, right? Because like obviously now people are probably gonna know the team, but like in situations where the team was closed sheet beforehand, like that's still tricky because there's like a lot of things on this team that can run like different items or moves. Like even if you were to change the team around in the future, like I feel like there's some item changes that can really like mess with people on this
Yeah,
team.
mostly the items. Yeah, I think for the moves, nothing was like that crazy.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
But like I prefer this team in an open format by far for
Absolutely,
sure.
yeah. I think it is a better open team sheet thing because, like, I feel like it has a lot of good options to adjust if you know what your opponent's using. You know.
Yeah,
But yeah, now we can get on to the common pairs. So the common pairs, Venudon, I'm sure it doesn't really need much explanation. I'm pretty.
yeah,
It's like immediately pressuring Vine Lash or immediately pressuring Sleep Powder. You can swap your ground on that immediately. I'm assuming this typically comes into matchups too, where like either you expect Kyogre to be in the lead, or you're pretty much leveraging the Groudon early because they don't really have much to stop it, right?
yeah. Honestly, sometimes I can mix it up like Venusaur Instant, Venusaur Lunala if I want to cover a Kyogre switching in. But like this is just a good bread and butter lead. There's a lot of like options out of it. You can like set up a swords dance, switch Venu out. You can max Venu. You can sleep powder. It's very good into like otherwise hard matchups as well. Cause having sleep powder gives you like a 75% chance to just be fine. So yeah, that is really huge.
Yeah, I think that too. The nice thing is like leads like these just they kind of work into almost anything. You know what I mean? Like you can kind of just lead these
Yeah.
things and like the like you'll always have like a way to win the game. You know, like I think the way that I like to team build anyways, and like it's kind of I think a little bit evident through this team is like regardless of what you're playing, you always have an option. You know what I mean? Like you just want
Hmm.
like leads that give you as many options into as many matchups as possible, and it's more generally focused on like specific matchup focus, right?
Yeah, this team absolutely felt like it could beat everything. Even my losses, it wasn't down to the team that I lost. It was like me or like, well, it was mostly a me.
Yeah.
But like, there can be like some unlucky things. I think Venusaur's crazy. You have a chance in like practically any matchup if you have this just due to sleep powder. So I think it's the best Pokemon in the game right now,
Yeah,
probably.
it's crazy.
It's so good. Yeah.
But yeah,
But yeah.
yeah, and like for the next two leads, I mean, these are pretty straightforward. I mean, it's literally Incineroar plus offensive Pokemon or Incineroar plus Trick Room Pokemon. With Lunala,
Yeah.
you're leveraging the Trick Room Pokemon, you're leveraging Fake Out Meteor Beam or like Moongeist, you know, whatever you need for the certain situation. Kind of allows you to get a safe Trick Room up majority of the time, I'd say, besides like certain situations. But you can usually play around those, right? Because you can swap out Lunala, Parting Shot, get back in your Lunala,
Mhm.
or go for Fake Out, Trick Room. You know, you have like a lot of stuff you can do there, I feel like.
Yeah, this has no like set play. I mean, the most obvious is fake out Trick Room against teams that are very weak to Trick Room. With this team, I set up Trick Room late game a lot more than I did turn one.
Hmm.
Like almost to seal a win, I would Trick Room rather than use it as my game plan.
Hmm.
Although it's a bit of a mix, you have to like play the team a bit, get used to it,
Yeah, no,
and just like
100%.
try stuff. It's a very balanced team. Like I would say you can honestly lead like almost any of these Pokemon together depending on the scenario.
Yeah, and like I think that's like the one nice thing about it, right? Is like it's very
Yeah.
flexible. And like that's kind of the main thing to keep in mind, I think. And Incineroar Thunderous is a pretty straightforward lead as well. I mean, you're just leveraging the Fake Out plus Max Airstream, or like Parting Shot and like Protect. You have like a couple of options there, but Thunderous immediately forces your opponent, I think, to respect the Max option, even if you're not going to
Yeah.
max it immediately. Kind of like Charizard, I feel like Charizard, I feel like when Charizard's on the field, you kind of have to play like Charizard is going to max all the time, even
Yeah,
if it's
yeah.
not.
Because if you get it wrong, you lose. And Thunderous is really like the same thing.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I feel like for those leads, like it's pretty straightforward. I feel like most of the options on this team are pretty straightforward. Like there's not, I think, too much that is kind of like super complicated, but I think that's like the nice thing about
No.
it is like it's kind of easy to pick up and like use.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it for the actual team section of it. Now for the second section of this, what I want to do was I actually wanted to go through Mattie's run, similar to what we did in one of my previous videos, about the Eveldon team that I used, and kind of talk through the different matchups that he played. Like obviously we're not gonna spend like 30 minutes on each one, but like we'll kind of give a quick review of like what each of them was. So we're gonna go over to that right now. Let me move that over. But yeah, so here you go. Me and Maddie's beautiful face on the screen. But yeah,
Mhm.
so we're gonna go through each of these individually and kind of talk about them. And then yeah, I mean, if there's anything in particular like you have thoughts wise about it, you can tell us. And then if it's just like, yeah, like I just did this and like it worked, it's fine. First matchup. Interesting thing to note, it actually only had one restricted on it, which I think is really funny. But yeah,
Yeah.
how was this one for you? I know you mentioned that it was still like a little tricky because
It
like
was
you had a
still a
lot.
little tricky. Like you had to play like it's almost a mirror. Like it's very close to a mirror. You have Lunala, which is honestly tips it a bit in your favor, I would say. Just like being able to meteor beam the Zard, being able to get safe trick room. I mean it was fine. I played a lot of teams like this.
Yeah, with
So
like the kind of balance grim like Ensign Sun mode.
yeah, that Porygon set I played like at least one more time. I think in the
Mhm.
tournament that kind of is a bit of a pain.
Yeah, I feel like it's funny too because I feel like this Porygon set sucks into like every other team except for the Ghost Psychic type teams because
Yes.
like it's literally what it bothers the most. Like Ice Beam is
Although
actually I feel
yeah,
like kind of optimal into most other teams, but like specifically when it comes to like these Calyrex teams or like the Lunala teams, like it's really annoying to deal with.
I guess that's the matchup it's there for. Like you can't really. I guess like that's the
Hmm.
mentality behind it.
Hmm.
I think it's alright. It does what it does well.
Yeah. So yeah, and then going into round two. So I know you had mentioned you had spoken very highly of this team, like you liked it a lot.
Yes,
So
this team was
yeah,
really cool. So
yeah,
Liakos was like my old NPA teammate last year. So I know him. I love him. And yeah, he played really really well. I think what won me this game was Umbreon. It was so helpful.
yeah. I think
Just
that
like pressuring the Lunala.
yeah, Umbreon looks like crazy here if you can remove the Zacian, right? Because it just seems like it can
Yeah.
wall the Hydreigon. It can even like kind of beat the Araquanid in certain situations if you're able to intimidate it enough or like set up that end game properly.
Hmm.
Even Yawn Spam seems really good into this team.
Yes,
I obviously Zacian can pressure Umbreon a little bit with Play Rough, but I'm pretty sure after one Intimidate, it actually can take a Play Rough anyways from Zacian if like the
it
situation ever came
can.
up. So yeah.
Yeah, so like he played this really well. I think both games. Let me check. Yeah, yeah. Both games. So he went Lunala, Amoongus, both games as the lead. What do you call it? Amoongus was pretty good into me because I only really had instant. Like Venusaur wasn't like fabulous in this matchup.
Hmm.
At least the way I was playing it, I was bringing Instant and Umbreon just because I was so scared of Zacian and Lunala. So I did have to let stuff fall asleep.
Hmm.
And game one he didn't actually bring Zacian. He brought Araquanid and Incineroar in the back, but game two he preserved his Zacian till the very end.
Yeah, no, I think that preserving the Zacian actually on this team works a lot because you kind of want to leverage, I think, the Lunala and the Araquanid early to remove like Groudon and some of the other Pokemon that can like give the team trouble and then kind of take advantage of the Zacian like game,
Yeah,
right?
the
Um,
games were so close, like very very close.
yeah, no, and I mean Liakos is a good player too, so like I'm
Yeah,
not too surprised about that. I know you'd mentioned too that Hydreigon didn't come, which was kind of interesting because it might have
yeah.
actually made a difference in the matchup, right?
I mean, like it's weird because I don't really understand why it's there. I wasn't that scared of it either. It seems like it
Hmm.
would be good into my team, but
Yeah.
I was more scared of the Araquanid and the Zacian.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
No.
honestly every other Pokemon. I don't know.
It was like, okay, you're right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's probably better in the Kali Shadow to be honest, because that
Yeah.
team's a lot faster paced.
No, that definitely makes sense. And then this matchup I think you had mentioned was like the easiest one you played, right? Like in terms of
This
like
guy,
yeah.
yeah, I felt bad. Like this matchup seemed so horrible for the opponent. Cause Lunala, if you don't know, Moongeist Beam just breaks the skies, goes through the skies. You can Oko Mimikyu. So like this person just couldn't get up Trick Room against me. Felt bad,
Yeah, no. I mean,
but
it's just the thing with these Duskbane teams sometimes too is it just feels like they take so much time to get going that like if you
hmm
don't if you have a matchup that like can output more damage than them and stop their setup, like they're completely ruined, right? Because like I feel like
yeah,
into this team, like Lunala Instant just has a field day with the team, like you can pretty much do
yeah.
anything with that lead, or like even another lead leveraging your Venusaur early, like it just looks like it's so much trouble for the team.
hmm
And it looks like it has like kind of all of its options covered because typically into Venusaur these teams would want to do like instant Mimikyu, but then you can just lead Lunala and ruin the Mimikyu anyways. So
Exactly.
it's just
I
kind of
actually I did lead Venu Lunala both games
to
here.
pin both
Like
leads, right?
yeah,
Yep.
I could cover for the Seismitoad switching as or not switching, but the Seismitoad Kyogre lead just by switching in Groudon, and I had Venusaur, so
Hmm.
like that was the thought process behind that. It just honestly those two Pokemon, like one of them at least will mess up any Pokemon on their team.
Yeah,
So
no, it literally looks like their entire team loses to
yeah,
like one or the other, right? So
yeah,
no, I think what was nice too is even if Incineroar was in and their Kyogre was in at the same time, you don't even have to swap in Groudon sometimes. You can leverage Weather Ball versus them. You can use Max
yeah.
Geyser and just like destroy the Incin. So
Yeah, but like this was not a bad player at all. I just think like they didn't really have a chance
yeah,
given the
it's
matchup.
just it was just one of those matchups, right?
Yeah,
It's like
really
Evil Dawn
tough.
versus Kirim. Like you're just gonna
Yeah.
forfeit. It's like
It's maybe worse. Like it was
yeah.
so bad.
No, yeah, no. It was definitely what's it called? It looks like a good matchup. But then you played versus
Yeah.
a Zacian Ogre team, the first one you had played
Yes.
versus. I mean, I feel like this is like the very cookie cutter basic like swordfish team.
Yeah, it's like dead standard. This is the matchup that I love open team sheeting. I think without open team sheet, this matchup is quite
Oh
difficult.
yeah, Dark
But
Pulse no,
without
is
it,
important too, right? Like knowing about that.
yeah. Yeah. I would have definitely like fallen for that with my Lunala. But typically like the Tornadus usually only has one of taunt or protect. Sometimes it has both. That could actually be a big problem, but I didn't
Mhm.
run into any of those.
Yeah. Knowing whether it's
So
offensive is like a
yeah.
huge deal, I feel like, because the sash
Yes.
support ones can be really annoying and like mess up your game plan if like they leverage it properly.
Yeah, it's like so it can just run a lot of sets and it's a pain. So into this, I just led Instant Thunderous because I knew he didn't have Protect, so I could just fake out and airstream the Tornadoes, which meant he had no speed control for the rest of the game. Thunderous was faster than everything. I had Groudon in the back to stop the weather, and like yeah, it was fine, honestly.
Yeah.
Also, this person also did not have a Koba Berry on a Mungus, which was really good for me.
Yeah, no, I think Koba Berry and Amoonguss definitely would have been more annoying for your Thunderous, right? And because it was
Yeah,
Akka, which doesn't really matter anyways, right? Like
yeah,
you kind of just destroy the Amoonguss with an airstream.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, this was all right.
Yeah, no, it's gonna definitely go on to the next team here. This one I'm sure has a lot, so you can feel free to give us your
Okay, I
thoughts
have a
on
lot
that.
to say here. So, I think I led Instant Umbreon game one. I got messed up really badly game one. So he led Calyrex Charizard and just I think he switched out and Max flared my Umbreon
Hmm.
or Max Wildfire. So I kind of got messed up game one. The offense just got to me.
Yeah, it
Game
definitely seems
two,
like a very
he
offensive team against at least
yeah.
Lunadon, right? Like,
Honestly, like the matchup seems kind of hard, but I kind of think I figured it out game two. It wasn't too bad. What did he bring? Hold on, I have my notes. Yeah. Oh yeah, he didn't bring Charizard game two,
hmm
which I was pretty happy with. He led Thunderous Groudon, and I remember just clicking yawn a few times.
hmm
Eventually, I tried to get Venu into position to sweep, and I used Max Guard, turn 1 of Dynamax, and then turn 2 of Dynamax. I accidentally switched it out.
Oh no.
So I just kind of lost, but it was close. Honestly, game 3, I think, had he brought Charizard, could have been really hard.
Yeah, I think that it's like definitely a matchup where like you have to call what your opponent's leading, right? Like
For
I
sure,
think that
yeah.
like if you know that they're bringing the Charizard, you have a lot more options to adapt with. Like you can even potentially bring your Thundurus because you know that maybe Charizard's in the lead, right? And
Yeah.
then if they're, not going with Charizard, then you can yeah, like lean into that Venusaur mode more, you know?
hmm
So I think that
Yeah.
was interesting.
Umbreon was really good in the second game. Like, he really struggled to break it. He had the max Groudon just to kill it. That's like what we were talking about earlier, where they have to, like, play a certain way just to beat Umbreon, and
Hmm.
you can use that to your advantage.
Yeah, no,
'Cause
for
that,
sure.
yeah,
I
that made
think
him very weak to Venusaur because he had the max Groudon.
Yeah, because I almost feel like here too. Obviously, it might be different, but even like a double dark thunderous like Groudon mode into this could potentially be good, right? Because you have something to pressure the Charizard. You have pretty much pressure on like the Incineroar lead, so they can't really lead Incineroar safely into you.
Yeah,
If Groudon is led, you have the option of like cycling Incineroar on and like kind of just clicking foul play with Umbreon or Yawn, right? Which could
that could have
definitely work
worked.
well. Yeah.
My
Um,
main worry was the Will-O-Wisp on
yeah,
Calyrex.
that was definitely a really good tech on this team, by the way. That I
Yeah,
think that they both Jones and North had on this team. I think
yeah,
Will-O-Wisp is what made this team like do so well because having that pressure to completely like destroy any physical attackers like damage output, especially Zacian, like Groudon, like those Pokemon is like huge, I think.
yeah. That honestly like invalidated Thunderous almost.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
100%. You have to play
North
a lot
played
more
really
careful,
well.
right? You have to play a lot more
Yeah,
careful. So,
he played very well. I mean, he got top 4, so obviously he's good and the team is good. So
oh yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
North is great.
Yeah, and then going on to round six. So round six, Palkia Zacian. This is actually what like not this specific team, but like this is the archetype that like I believe won the whole tournament, right?
Yeah,
So, pretty strong archetype as a whole. I'm sure we'll see it pop up more. But like, how was this matchup for you? Because it's so I actually see you got one loss here, right? So like,
I do have a
yeah,
loss here.
yeah.
Game 1, the my memory's a bit hazy on this one. I know in game 2 I led Thunderous Groudon
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't break the P2. Like, I blew my Dynamax too early in
Mm-hmm.
game 2, and then like my opponent won the long game. Game 1, I think I managed to sleep the Palkia with Venusaur, and I think I did that game 3 as well. Like, I kind of did gamble on sleep powder a bit just to slow it down because once Palkia was asleep, Venusaur went in pretty hard on this team.
Mm-hmm.
Vine Lash really added up
Oh yeah,
as
and
well.
especially because they have a Rillaboom, right? Like they can't really like
Yeah,
lead it. Then they have a passive Clefairy that's not even Eviolite, so you can kind of chunk it really quickly.
yeah. Those two Pokemon never came though. It was always the other four,
So like these
which
four,
I think is correct. Yeah.
yeah. No,
This was kind of tough. Like, well, it was tough. It wasn't
mhm.
kind of tough, but Meteor Beam was really good for the Incin. Lunala honestly was decent, except in the Porygon. Porygon was a big issue.
Yeah. No, it definitely makes sense, right? Like, I mean, Palkia's whole, I feel like the whole team is designed around leveraging Palkia's offense earlier. It's actually very similar, I feel like, to Thundurus and Charizard. We keep mentioning those Pokemon that,
Yeah,
like, pressure with Max. Like, Palkia is literally designed to use its Max to, like, force the opponent to swap, like, 3 times,
yeah.
and, like,
The
get free
nice thing
damage.
about playing against Palkia is it doesn't stack Airstream boosts or Wildfire. Like,
Hmm.
it's not boosting itself, except with Rain, I guess.
Like, the Max Geyser is the only thing they really
Yeah,
have. Yeah.
so it's slightly less scary
Yeah,
in
I'm
my
surprised to see
opinion.
Draco Meteor over Spatial Rend actually, because Spatial Rend,
Yeah,
would give you a consistent like Dragon type move. But I know some people like the damage output a little bit better.
yeah, in Dynamax, it's nice to have the extra damage.
Yeah, but yeah, no, that seems like a fairly straightforward matchup. This one I'm really
Yeah,
curious about because this one looks bad. This one looks like a really rough matchup as a whole because like you
this
have like something that absolutely like invalidates a lot of your Sun leads, right? Then you have Thunderous, which is like another possible lead, and it has the dark coverage move. And then on top of that, you also have a restricted that you don't like dealing with, along with the Jack Button Switcheroo and Zacian. So it seems like a lot of like crazy stuff to like stop like either Trick Room or like your Sun mode. It's kind of like a lead roulette. It almost seems like.
It felt really hard to be honest. In game one, he led Calyrex Thunderous. I led. Oh, what did I lead? I led Venudon. Yeah, I kind of just was like, I hope he doesn't lead Wheezing, and if he does, I have a sash at least.
Hmm.
So I did kind of rely on Sleep Powder here. This is what I mean. Like Venusaur can really bail you out of these matchups. So I think I slept the Thunderous on its Dynamax turn one. That was huge, and I think I just max quaked the Calyrex if I
Hmm.
recall correctly. I didn't want to like let Groudon get low, and then he'd get a Astral Barrage boost or a an Aswan boost, and then I would just get swept.
Oh,
But
100%. Yeah.
yeah. So I got the Spit F boost and the Sleep Powder off, and from there it was about like trying to position in a way where I could get rid of Calyrex without exhausting all my resources that lose to Zacian.
Oh yeah, and I think that like into these kind of matchups, right? Like, it's very centered around I think calling whether or not they lead the Regigigas Wheezing. Honestly, like,
Yeah, a bit.
because like realistically, if they lead Regigigas Wheezing, like you have some options. Like even if you were to lead like Venudon, right, you would still have a couple options. Like if you had like Lunala in the back, you could swap in Lunala and take a Max Strike maybe. If you expect a Max Hailstorm, you might have a pivot with Incineroar into that, right?
Mhm.
But still could be tricky, you know. It's definitely
Yeah,
an interesting matchup. I will say that much. Like I wouldn't
yeah,
expect to play versus something like this that much, so it's not like something you should be too worried about with the team. But like sometimes these matchups pop up, you know. And the fact that the team can beat
yeah.
even a matchup like this just shows, I think, that like it has the consistency to beat things that are like kind of like give it some trouble, you know.
hmm Game two, I actually liked my lead a lot. So what I did was I went Venusaur Umbreon. They led Calyrex Thunderous again, and I just clicked Sleep Powder into Calyrex and Yawn into Thunderous. The Thunderous maxed. They doubled the Venusaur, but then their max was about to fall asleep.
Hmm.
And
And
then
you
I
had an Umbreon on the
believe I
field.
Vine Lashed. Yeah. It was honestly Umbreon was really good there. Although it came down to like Weezing Zacian games at the end. Like I no wait, no I remember what happened. I maxed Lunala. There was a turn
Hmm.
where I would have lost, but the Weezing cancelled the Defiant boost from my Max Phantasm on the Thunderous.
Oh my god.
So yeah, that had to come into play. Like that's a
It's
bit
a
of
weird
awkward.
matchup.
Like
Weird
it's
matchup.
hard to
Yeah.
position for the opponent like around Weezing and like turning off your own abilities because you don't want to switch Zacian on a Max
Hmm.
Phantasm. But it
Yeah.
was a Subfest, so it lived. The Thunderous.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, like it's definitely a tricky matchup, right? But I mean, it just shows too. Like I feel like this team, once you get Trick Room up versus it, though, you have like a pretty decent matchup, you know.
hmm
So that's like kind of cool.
Yeah, it's just very hard to get it up, but if you can, it's good. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I feel like that's the story versus a lot of teams too. But like getting on to this team particularly, I felt like this team had a couple of interesting sets, which was like Babiri, Kiram White. I mean, Assault Vest Kyogre. You know, a
Yeah.
Guavberry like support Thunderous. You know,
Yeah. It was actually physical support, which was pretty cool.
yeah. So like, what did
Yeah.
you like think about this match? I mean, this one just seems like I feel like you have an okay matchup into this, especially. I feel like Assault Vest Kyogre is actually not that great because I feel like you just always know you can target into that slot and like it'll
Yeah.
hit something, you know?
I definitely abused that a lot.
Yeah, and like I mean, Iron Defense Ferrothorn definitely seems like it could be a decent end game versus this team if positioned properly, but it still requires like them to remove your Lunala. You know, you still have like stuff to deal with that. I feel like.
Yeah. This was kind of hard. I think in most of the games I didn't bring Incineroar. I brought Umbreon instead.
Mm-hmm.
Because Yawn was really good. Like, it was very hard for him to Dynamax without clicking Max Thunder
Mm-hmm. And you can't
with
get taunted on
Kyogre.
Umbreon too, which is really nice as well, or status by
Yeah,
any of the Thunderous moves. So
exactly. Yeah, you could join the Thunderous to get your Lunala in. And the fact that Kyurem was Babiri was fantastic for me.
Yeah, no, it definitely seems good because it lowers the damage output from it, right? So it's not really doing that
Yeah,
much, which I think was nice here. I mean, this is like I feel like a cookie cutter. Like you can really abuse like Lunala, Umbreon, bulk to just kind of like get through this team,
yeah.
you know?
It was a very slow one. I think I was like one of the last sets in the round because I did like immediately have to play right after. And this
Yeah.
was my winning in actually for top cut, so
Oh yeah, and I'm
it
sure
felt
like
really
after
nice.
this you felt really good, right? Like,
Yeah, it was like a long, like almost an hour long set.
yeah, no,
Yeah, I had to preserve Venu for the Weather Ball on
mm-hmm.
Thunderous or onto Ferrothorn
Ferrothorn,
at the
yeah,
very end. Yeah, it was pretty tough. I
yeah.
think in the end I killed it with Lunala though.
No, yeah. I think like you have like a couple options to kill the Pharaoh, which is nice on this team. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, so just in case you do lose Vino, like you at least have like Lunala. You know what I mean? Like you can do
Mhm.
something there. But yeah, I mean, and then your final matchup
Yeah,
for getting in top cut. This one, honestly, this one just looks really good for you because like
it
it looks like one of
was.
those teams that are just like they just lose when Trick Room goes up. Besides the Moongus, but even that you can like kind of cover yourself versus.
Yeah, I think in game one, this one was the one that didn't have protect or did
Mhm.
have protect, right? On the
Um,
tornadoes.
Yes,
Yeah,
this one was support Tornadus, but no like Dark Pulse or Taunt. So
yeah. I don't think I went Thunderous in this set cause of that. Like this is what I mean about open team sheet. I think I went Instant Lunala
hmm
with. I think I brought Venusaur as well and Groudon to both games.
yeah, no, 100%. I mean, it just looks
Yeah,
really solid into this, right? Like, I mean, and the nice thing is too is Venusaur and Incineroar are both immune to Moongus Sleep Powder, so you can kind of just sit in front of it. You know what I mean? And like,
hmm,
it can be kind of useless in those situations. And like, since its only coverage move is Giga Drain, it's not even doing any significant like chip damage to your team.
yeah. The
Um,
Zapdos maxed in game one, and I think. Oh, my memory's a bit hazy. I think I got Trick Room up and it wasn't too bad. I think it maxed later on in the game rather than earlier.
mhm.
But
I feel like once Trick Room's up too versus team, you just have
yeah,
such an advantage.
it was kind of tough because of the Amoonguss, but it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, like it was
And Mike's
playable.
a very good player. I think Mike made this hard for me.
No, yeah, I definitely think that too. Sometimes with certain teams, like even if you have a good matchup, like the player can definitely like, I think
Yeah,
make it more difficult, right? Like Mike's good with
yeah,
like obviously like the teams he uses, he's like very comfortable with them, so it can definitely make it a bit tricky,
yeah. I mean, this is a solid team. Like, it doesn't really like have any like very very bad matchups.
Yeah.
Mike's team. So it's still like you have to play a game of Pokemon to
I do
win.
like Zapdos with these Zacian Kyogre teams that we're starting to see a lot more because I think it gives you a really
Mhm.
good offensive max option. I mean, we even saw Paul Ruiz's team. I mean, it was using
Yeah,
Zapdos and like it
literally.
was super good.
Yeah, this team got top eight as well. This like Mike got top eight,
Yep.
so that speaks to the team.
No, 100%. And then going over to top 32, which is your first round of cut, right? So
Yeah,
you managed to not have to play top 64, right? Because I think
yeah,
there was a top 64
yeah,
round.
it was top 41
Top
technically, but
41, yeah.
effectively, yeah,
Yeah, you just were one of the unlucky ones that had to play.
yeah.
But yeah,
Uh, I think I got seed, so it meant I fought the winner of two people who didn't get a bye.
yeah, I mean, I feel like versus this team too, like I feel like this is even better for Lunala, honestly. Like, I think
Yeah,
Mike's team at least had some stuff that could give you trouble, but there's no Moongus on here, right? So like,
yeah.
once you said Trick Room, like Groudon kind of goes crazy.
Groudon was great. Incineroar Lunala kind of went on a mini sweep. God, game one.
hmm
So like I called an Indeedee Protect at one point and just Moongeist Beam fruit chopped the Torn switching, I believe, or something like that. And that was honestly so good because then I could just Meteor Beam fruit chop the Indeedee next turn,
hmm
and then it became really hard for him. Game two was very close. I remember he got a double protect on Zacian on the last turn of Trick Room, which meant I had to try and get. I think I had about three Pokemon, and I was trying to get my Venusaur in Sun so I could kill the Zacian off
hmm
or put it to. Actually, I think what I did, was I
Mhm.
sleeped the Kyogre and Precipice Blades to cover the Zacian and the Kyogre, but that did make it very,
Like
very
tricky.
close to double
Yeah.
protect. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think the main thing into this matchup is literally just pretty much leveraging Lunala, Incin, Venusaur, like Groudon, right? Like pretty straightforward
Mm-hmm.
matchup. You have obviously Venusaur to kind of pressure the Zacian and the Kyogre themselves. It's a Drake Zolt, you have Groudon to deal with that, along with like Incineroar, right? And then like Lunala is kind of like that generally good Pokemon that can hit everything for like neutral, right? And like get
Yeah.
through that Trick Room. But and then yeah, you moved on, right? And then you played top 16. So this match, I was sad, bro. I was literally like on stream, like looking. I was like, please win. I was like, please. But no, yeah, man. I from what I heard, this was really close, and like you got a little bit unlucky too. So
Yeah.
like,
This was so close. Although my opponent missed a lot of Precipice Blades throughout the set, to be
mhm.
honest. The
So it
set
kind of
ended
balanced
with
out.
me. Yeah, it ended with me missing a P Blades on Zacian on the very last turn. So that kind of stung the way it happened. But no, he played really well. He got top 8 in the end. He lost to North. It was the two people I lost to actually in the next round,
Yeah.
playing each other. So that was pretty funny. Um, I think in game one, I led Incineroar Venusaur into Groudon Venusaur, so that's just like an advantageous start. He had no protect on Groudon, so I was like, this is going to be a pretty hard game, and if I land a sleep powder, I'm like up a lot. So I just went for the sleep powder on the Groudon. It's a subfest, so it didn't have protect, and he had no goggles. His only sleep switch in was Venusaur. So I got a sleep on the Groudon pretty early on, and then I believe I parting shotted the Venusaur as well,
hmm
and I think it maxed. No,
Yeah.
I think it switched actually. Oh, I don't remember to be
Yeah, I mean,
honest.
it's more so just
Yeah,
like the nuanced matchup, right? Like, I mean, I think the things that too were a little like interesting were like the
yeah.
Will-O-Wisp Rotom. The Solar Bladezation I think was like really cool on this team. Because it seems like it could put a decent amount of pressure on Groudon, if it's in the right spot.
Yeah. Rotom never came actually. Every game it was Venusaur, Groudon, Incineroar, and Zacian actually.
hmm
And the sorry about the dog.
You're all good.
The Solar Blade never actually came into play, but I had to play around the pressure of it, so I guess it kinda did.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a. I think it's a cool matchup. It's a cool team as well. It had like some cool text on it. I think that made it like a little
Mm.
trickier too.
The
Um,
Venusaur was very, very strong into me, I think. Because it was like I think it was close to max health, max
mhm.
special attack. My Meteor Beam in max did about 30% to it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't like double it up with a weather ball because of weakness policy.
Right.
So it
Yeah.
was hard to play around.
Yeah, the weakness policy definitely makes it like a little trickier, right? Because it's kind of able to it's kind of like the sash effect, like you take 2 turns to remove it, or you don't feel like you can really target it with a super effective move because then you're gonna
Yeah.
give it like a weakness policy boost.
Yeah, it's similar. And this was the Groudon that was slower than mine. In game two, I was like down really bad, so I went for a Swords Dance in front of a +2 Venusaur and Trick Room, and it paid off.
hmm
But then like it didn't win me the game, but it got close.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like it was still a really strong run. I mean, like you went through like a lot. You played a lot of good players. You
Thanks.
ended up making like top 16. So, I mean, yeah, like obviously, like, do you have like any final thoughts on the team or like anything that you would advise someone else playing the team, to kind of like keep in mind?
I think it's really good in a closed team sheet format. I don't think it's as strong. You have to cover for a lot more options, really, and
hmm
it can be like very vague. Which mode is your best mode?
hmm
But yeah, like it's not too bad. It could still work. I think you just be careful.
Yeah, pretty much, right? Like, I mean, I think it's just a team where like you just keep in mind like what your opponent's bringing and kind of adjust in that way, right? And like you have a lot of options to kind of deal with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. Do you have any other shout outs you'd like to give, or any like I guess any plugs for your any of your socials or
Um.
anything? I'll have your stuff in the description, anyways. But.
Well, I'll shout out everyone that helped me prep. Shout outs to you first of all. I was really lost for this tournament like a day or two before. you gave me this team, and I just played some games with it, and it felt good. Um, Shout out to NJ, Sam, Sohype, North, Tom. I hope I don't forget anyone, but everyone who helped me prep
No,
in
yeah.
the server this weekend.
No, yeah, for sure. It was good, you know. I think what also was fun too was the ladder roulette thing we did like the day before, you know,
Yeah,
like just like I felt like playing some games casually like for fun, you know, on ladder is like actually a really nice way to just kind of get comfortable with the team and also not like stress too much, you know.
it's very fun. Yeah, I managed to win a six-person ladder roulette with this team, so that goes on the list of accomplishments.
Yeah. But
But
no, yeah. I mean, just it was just what's it called? It was really fun doing this with you, Maddie. I mean, obviously too. You know, you're a very good player as well, so I'm glad that you were able to carry this team as far as you did, you know. But yeah, guys, for those of you tuning in the video, I'll have Maddie's socials linked down below. If you guys would like to support my content beyond obviously the videos, make sure to check out the Patreon, which will be down below. Also, make sure to check out coaching if you guys would like to improve your skills. I don't know, Maddie, do you do coaching or anything or not?
um, I used to. I haven't in a while. It's okay for now.
If
It's
Mattie does
okay.
coaching at some point, make
Y-
sure to check him out. He's a good
Yeah,
player.
thank you.
But yeah. But yeah, guys, thank you so much again for all the support on the videos. Thank you again to Mattie for being here on the video. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.